Okay. Well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to have our first Lunch and Learn for Altos, and I'm hoping that this is the first in a series. And I appreciate you spending the time with me today. So today we're going to focus on understanding the market reports. So you may have met with me before. You may not have, but my name is Jessica Lucke, and I am the Director of Customer Success at Altos. I've been with Altos for 14 years. I'm really passionate about what we do, and so I'm excited to share. So what I'm going to do before we jump into the report is I'm going to share with you a couple of resources that I find are super helpful with really trying to solidify what it is that you're going to be looking at, okay? Now, this is a webinar format, and so if you have any questions, I would encourage you to drop them in the Q&A. Okay, so we have some help from Jeff Graves, someone you may have already met before. He's with our sales folks, and so he's going to assist with any of those questions. So I encourage you to put them there. And we're going to go ahead and dive in. So chances are, you've got an account, maybe you've been using Altos for some time. Maybe you haven't and you'd like to start getting more engaged. The goal behind this session is to really get you inspired and get you excited about the possibilities and hopefully uncover some new things that you weren't aware of when looking at the report. So what you're seeing here is our ebook, and I wanted to share with you that we do have this great resource, and I'm going to share with you how to go about finding it. This here is our ebook, right? And this is how to incorporate market data into your real estate business. This is a really great ebook. I promise it's not a snooze fest, right? It'll give you some great ideas of how to incorporate it, but really solidify what we talk about today. Things like navigating the market report, right? Different components, what do they mean? What statistics to watch? And one of my favorite sections of this ebook is really how to answer buyer and seller questions with market data. It'll allow you to get some insights, how to think outside the box. How can this data really help you? Okay. And so I did want to start with that. Now, in addition to that, we have an excerpt. This is super powerful. This is our Altos report explainer. So let me just backtrack a little bit. I want to make sure that in this 30 minutes, I'm able to also answer some questions that I commonly get about Altos, about the data, okay? And so one of the best things about these reports is that it answers the question, how's the market today? And I'm sure you're aware that there's plenty of different market reports out there, right? Well, what makes Altos different? Well, one of the unique things about Altos is that we focus on the 100% active market in order to answer the question, how's the market today? Many reports out there, although very helpful and important, they're updated monthly and they focus on sold data. Both, again, very important, but they answer a different question. That's answering the question, how was the market a month ago, 6 weeks ago? And right now, that's not something that interests us. We want to know, okay, how's the market today and what can we expect moving forward, right? And so that's what we're all about. We're about answering that question and also providing leading indicators of change, things that we can look at to monitor whether we're going to see a shift in the market. Now, market data, great. And it's really important. And many of you might be very much into the numbers and all of that great stuff. Love fancy charts. And that's great. But what about those who don't? What about those who feel a little bit more intimidated? These reports are bigger than just market data. These reports help you better your relationships with your clients. They help overcome anxiety, okay? There's a bunch of it today. In the last 4 years, it has been an amazing roller coaster ride of anxiety, the what ifs, right? And so with these reports, you can help overcome some of that anxiety. Well, how do we do that? So here, what we're looking at is the report explainer. This is a 2-page, what I call cheat sheet. It's a high-level overview of the components that make up the market report. This is important because not only are we in the business of answering the question, how's the market today? We want to take that complex data and put it into an easy to understand format. My big joke is if I go out on the street and say, hey, do you want to look at some market statistics? Not everybody gets excited about that idea. But if you say, hey, listen, I know it's really treacherous out there and it's really scary to be in a position that you're in, whether you're buying or selling your home, let me help you overcome that anxiety, right? How? By focusing on what's happening today and what they can expect moving forward. So not only is this a high-level overview of the components that make up the market report, if you scroll to the second page, this is the gold, interpreting the report. Here are all of the statistics and the definitions of the statistics and why the heck we care about what that statistic is telling us. All really important. I've been working with Altos for 14 years, and in that 14 years, I'm always surprised about how few questions are asked about what the statistics mean. Why? It's human nature. We don't want to admit we don't know. So by having this tool, not just for yourself, but also to provide to your clients you choose to share the report with, you're helping to answer the questions they're never going to ask. And it can be really helpful. Okay. Now, I always like to show this before we go into a report because I like to point out key leading indicators of change, things that you can look for within the report that you can help your clients look for within the report to help gauge whether or not we're going to see a shift in the market or to kind of just gauge where we're standing right now. And so I'm going to draw your attention to two. One is the percent price decreased. The other one is the percent relisted. The percent price decreased of the inventory. What is the percentage of that inventory that has had to take a price reduction since being put on the market? Now, something unique about our inventory, I want to just a reminder, is we focus on the 100% active market. So our inventory data set excludes pending and contingent, new construction. It can't be something that we can buy today and move in next year. It's available today, 100% active. So when you look at this statistic, of the 100% active inventory, what is the percentage of properties taking a price reduction? Okay, great. Well, fine. Now, if you go look at the report and it says 45%, well, what does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Well, this document helps by saying that 35% is considered normal, is typical. And so knowing that 35% is normal, typical, you can look at the report, see where you stand, and gauge where you're headed. Super helpful. So I always recommend print this out, take a highlighter, highlight this segment. Super important. The other one is the percent relisted. All right. So of the active inventory, what is the percentage of properties that have been relisted? Same idea. You could go look at the percentage and go, I don't know. What does it all mean? 10% or less is typical. So knowing that, going to look at the report, you can gauge where you stand. So that's super, super helpful. Okay. Okay. So those are two statistics that I always make mention of. Where the heck do you find them? Okay. So we're going to go here. This is an Altos account. This is my Altos account. Help. If you haven't ventured over to our help section, I highly recommend it. This is where you're going to find these helpful resources. The ebook is here. So just click on that to download the ebook and our report explainer PDF. Now you'll notice that the PDF that I looked at has our Altos logo. Well, you can also have it without a logo. Now, in addition to these, you'll see that you've got the quick start guide. That's a quick start guide on adding contacts, understanding campaigns. I highly recommend that, along with our report overview. We're going to go at kind of lightning speed today. You're going to be able to watch the recording, but there's also this great tutorial that you can view as well. So I recommend doing that as well as the other tutorials. Now, down here at the bottom, you'll also be able to book your one-on-one. That's with me, whether you like it or not. So if you haven't had that opportunity, definitely make that a priority. This will help us talk about your specific needs and your reports. Okay. All right. So now you've got a good understanding. You've got the ebook and you've got this report explainer. Both of those tools are going to be super helpful for understanding the report. I chose Portland, Oregon for the report not because I wanted to look at the market and how the market was, but just so I can use this as our framework for understanding the report. Okay. So one of the calls to action that I'm going to have for you at the end of this session is to brand your reports, making sure that you take advantage of the fact that you have that capability. Whether you have your own account or you're using a company account, you want to make sure that the branding suits. Okay. So when you go into your Altos account on your reports page, click on customize reports. This is where you can set up that branding. Okay. Don't forget to click save. All right, so going back to the report here, you can see I've got my image, I've got my title, I've got who I work for, my contact information, all very important aspects of it, okay? So with our report, again, we want to answer the question, how's the market today? We do that by focusing on the 100% active market. Now, I break this down into 3 parts, right? First is a summary of sorts. The next one is our larger chart, which allows us to tell a story, many stories. And then we dive in a little bit deeper to help set expectations within a price point. So understanding that there's a lot. Now, every report we look at is looking the same, just different data. We do that on purpose. There is rhyme and reason as to why we lay out the report the way that we do. We want to make sure that everyone can get what they need from the report. Now, I work with what we call a lot of data geeks, right? They really love the numbers. Engineers, they love the numbers. I'm more of a visual person. I like the visual cues that are throughout the report. And then you're going to have those who are like, just tell me like it is, right? A little bit more intimidated by all of the imaging and all of the numbers. So we add copy here that talks specifically about what's happening in the real-time market profile. So super helpful. And every chart has a descriptor at the bottom of that chart. Super helpful. Okay. Now we talk about inventory. So here is the inventory for all of Portland, Oregon. Remember, this is excluding pending and contingent. And that's a big deal because there's quite a bit. Okay. So we also break that down into single family homes, condo townhouses, and if you have co-ops in your area, then we'll have a section for that. So single family homes, click on condos and all of the data changes, but you feel it looking the same, right? So it's all consistent. We'll click on single family homes. Now, when we're looking at this, you've got your real-time market profile, a dotted list of all the most important statistics. Now, I'm going to again make mention of a lot of the questions that I get. So these reports are updated on a weekly basis. Well, when does that happen? Just so that you know, we stop capture on Friday, process the data over the weekend, and publish on Sunday afternoon. But the data here is as of Friday. Put your cursor here and you'll be able to see that Friday date stamp and then 13 weeks to look back. Okay? It's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So this is really helpful to be able to gauge where you've been and where you're headed. And so understand that this is very interactive. And as we go through these statistics here, median list price is directly related to the 705, right? Great. Well, then what is the median price of new listings? This question comes up often because this is just the data set of new listings that came onto the market since the previous capture, the previous week. Very different. And then this is the median of that data set. Now, price per square foot, pretty straightforward. But average days on market versus median days on market, this comes up a lot. And reality is, this is really great insight. So average days on market has been the go-to for as long as I can remember. That's what people are used to looking at. And it's going to take into account all active inventory and how long it's been on the market. Now, this is all great and fine until we went through that whole debacle of really low inventory. And that no matter where we look, there were stale pieces of inventory, no matter where, okay? And so as that stale pieces stay on the market, it accrues days. And then the days start not really reflecting what's really happening in the market, right? So we decided to incorporate median days on market. Median days on market remove those outliers, right? So it has a better sense of what's really happening in the market. When you have a big gap between the two, that's indicating that yes, there are stale pieces of inventory. But I will tell you that this is great insight, because if your buyers are seeing this number, they're going to think they have far more time on their hands than they truly do, right? And so you can now provide them insight that they wouldn't normally get. Now, the next one, price decrease. There's that statistic, right? All right. So great, 36%. What does that mean? Well, 35% is considered typical, right? You're right on target. But we can go back to the beginning of November and notice it's 52%. So 52% is a bit high. And so you can see down here, the heat of the market, which we'll get to, was 40 versus 46. Okay. So since then, it has gradually gone down. And because it's gone down, the market has heated up just a tad. So you can see that there is a correlation there, right? So keep an eye on this percentage. Now, this percentage is awesome when dealing with sellers. One of the best things you can do is build the relationship with your seller, empower them to better understand the market as you go through that process together. How? Let them know that, hey, as of right now, 36% of the active inventories had to take some sort of a reduction since being put on the market. We want to make sure that that stays the same or goes down. If that were to climb over time, we may have to come back together and talk about the price of your home. Well, by doing that, empowering them to understand it, there will be no shock and awe moment, which is great because that's one of the more difficult conversations to have. And so they will really feel good about being in a position of knowledge. I 100% guarantee it. Okay. Now, the other one is relisted. Wow, 10% or less is typical. This is at 16. Are we really, really concerned about it? Not so much, because it's been bouncing around in that area over the last few months, right? And so what we're really looking at with the relisted is a significant increase in a short period of time. And so when you see that, you'll start seeing a cooling effect in the market. As it stands, things are continuing to heat up. Now, inventory, beginning in November, here, 1322. Wow, you're down at 700, okay? So that will show, and you want to see if that's going to continue to drop, or are we going to start seeing some inventory as we head into spring, okay? Median rent, and then of course, our market action index. This is the heat of the market, okay? And I've talked about that. So what is the market action index? Probably doesn't sound very familiar, but it is the heat or the heart of the report. It's actually what started it all. This is our own proprietary algorithm. It's the fancy term for private equation with a weighted end result. Okay, so proprietary, private, but it's a series of supply and demand statistics tied up in a pretty bow, right? So our data team determined that 30, which you'll see in our image here with the white line, represents that. 30 represents a balanced market. Anything greater than 30 favors the seller. Anything less than 30 favors the buyer. So the higher the number, the hotter the market, seller's market, okay? So 46, we know that that's greater than 30, so it's a seller's market. And so you can see back here, it was 40, so you're seeing that heat up over the last few months. And this is a great image because it represents, hey, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? And how does it compare to this time last month? So how is it doing that? Well, looking at the image here, you'll see that the first layer represents now at 46. In the gray is a running 30 days back, okay? So if you see this, it might be difficult, but it's just a hair hotter than it was 30 days ago, last month. This is really well received in social media, and that's something that you have access to share as well, okay? And so right here, we have a great answer to the question, how's the market? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? And it's a strong seller's market, okay? So great, summary of sorts for single family homes. Scroll down and you'll see here a large chart. There is a lot going on here. And so one of the things I like to encourage here is it's an image, it tells a story, and there are plenty of stories to tell. And so what you want to be able to do is determine, well, what story is going to be most important to my client, right? And so you can talk about various things. So here we are looking at median list price. Now remember, you've got 13 weeks to look back here, okay? Median list price. Down here is our 5 years. So we have a 7-day and 90-day. So the 7-day, remember, we're updating these reports every week, right? The 90-day happens to be this, the 3 months averaged out, okay, every week. So why do we have that? Well, look at how noisy it can be. It's updated week after week. And then the 90-day allows for the more smooth line, the trend. So this is what we call the trend line. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that you can remove the noise. And when you remove the noise, you have a clearer picture as to what the trend is. And so here's where we're at now. This is a year ago, same time last year, the year before, and okay, good old 2021, and then 2020, okay? So great. So you've got the ability to look at the trend and then compare that with the 7-day. Why have the 7-day if it's harder to view? Well, the 7-day provides leading indicators of change. You will see the momentum in that 7-day before the 90-day kicks in. Click it on. And if you look at the trend, it's just leveling out. If you look at the 7-day, the prices are rising. So super helpful, right? To be able to do that type of predicting. The trend is kind of like looking at a monthly report, but here is looking at the now. Okay, so again, you'll see that momentum. Now, this is just median price. You've got plenty of stories to talk about. What about inventory? Inventory is such a big deal, right? And so if you look about where you're at now, and the 7-day is 705, and we go back to pre-COVID, 786. Okay, so almost the same, but you can see how low it really got a couple of years ago, 441. Okay, so 2022, 2021. So this allows you to talk through inventory, what it means. And some areas still have very low inventory. This image can be really helpful because it backs you up. Nothing does a better job than a visual, right? And so we can always utilize these charts to help tell a story. Now, one of my favorite stories to tell, what happened in the last 4 years? It seemed really crazy. Yeah, look at the market action index. Now, with the market action index, you have to remove the noise, but you're able to see the roller coaster ride that we went through over the last 4 years. This one I just found super fascinating because if you look at pre-COVID right here, I mean, this is like just a couple of weeks before, this is where we're at. And then before that, you know, the calm before the crazy storm, right? And then this is where we're at now, 45, 49. So nearly the same. But if we go back and look at this, so up here, you'll see March or April, the end of April, and then this May. So this feeling looks like we jumped off a cliff, right? This is when interest rates started to climb and inventory started to climb back up and everybody thought the sky was falling, right? The market's going to crash. But if you remember the number 30, that's a balanced market. And anything less than 30 is a buyer's market. We never even got down there. So these reports were so helpful during that time because this allows you to overcome a lot of that anxiety, to really understand that, yes, although this is very uncomfortable, this is not something that we could sustain. Driving 100 miles an hour, we had to take our foot off the gas. Well, then we coasted, we came back up, and we repositioned right where we were before COVID, right? And everybody's report's going to be a little different, but I would encourage you to go check that out because I think that is such an interesting story to tell, okay? Now, going back up to the top, again, you've got all of these statistics. This is median price. Now, one of my favorite things to do and something that's almost a requirement where I'm at, I live in Los Gatos, California, where we have a zip code that goes from 12 million to 2 million. Oh, the nature of the market's going to be very different between the two, right? So how can you use the same report to talk to clients who A, are interested in the luxury market, or B, have a very tight budget? Well, you can by coming down here and using the market segments. Select market segments, and now you're able to see where we take the active inventory, we list it from most expensive to least expensive, and then divide it by 4 so that each segment is 25% of the market. That the red line always, or the blue line always represents the most expensive 25% of properties. And the red always represents the least expensive 25% of properties. Now, again, market segments is great. You can see the difference here, but what's great is that you can turn things off. So if you're going to have a meeting with a client that's only interested in the most expensive 25% of properties, then turn off the noise for everything else and focus on just that segment where the median is 1.4, where you can say, okay, what does the median days on market look like for that segment? Well, the trend is indicating 117 and climbing. We provide the trend because if we were giving that 7-day, we'd go blind, right? But it's important to understand that this is the trend. How does that compare to the least expensive 25% of properties? Big difference of 60. This allows you to help tailor your conversation per client. Talk to them about what's most important to them, their price point, right? What they qualify for or what they're selling. This is gold. This allows you to give them insight that they wouldn't, again, normally have. So I encourage you to take a look at segments. Look at the differences between the different segments because we rerun that algorithm as well. So based on total inventory, 46 is the score, right? Well, if you break it down into segments, that first one is 38. So slight seller's market, okay? That happens to be the most expensive 25%. Now those least expensive 25% are at a 59, really hot, okay? Now this is the chart, scroll down, and now you've got the segments. This here is the 90-day trend within the chart. Now we're looking at the 7-day. The 7-day provides insights. This is where you can help set expectations, okay? So if you look at this, you'll see that we take the active inventory, and this one is the top most expensive 25% and the median, and then the least expensive 25%. You'll see what can they expect for their money. Okay, so if I were to move to Portland and I said, hey, listen, the max I can spend is $425. What can I expect for my money in Portland? Well, 1,300 square feet, a smaller lot size compared to others, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 73-year-old home. Okay, great. Well, that helps you set that expectation because if I told you that I have 2 large teenagers and that 1,200 square feet is not going to cut it, well, I either have to bring more to the table or I need to look at a different location, maybe a neighboring city, Beaverton, something of that sort. Will I be able to get more for my money? That is what you're able to do with this report. In addition to that, it'll tell you, okay, new pieces of inventory coming onto the market, no longer available as absorbed, pending, contingent. And then how long does it take from list to pending? Notice the days are different, okay? And so this can be really helpful as well. Help set the expectation. How quickly do they need to move, to put an offer in? You know, does it have to be super strong? Those are really helpful. These reports help your clients make better decisions when it comes to real estate, okay? All right, so I know that we're at the end of the hour or the half hour, but here, before I go ahead and change gears a bit, I wanted to make sure that you're aware that you can go and share these. Convert to a single page PDF, a full report PDF, okay? Make sure that you know that you can share on social media. You have a search functionality here that allows you to go and search anywhere. So if I wanted to go to my zip code, you just search and voila, here we are, Los Gatos, California, okay? All right, so hopefully this helps give you some insights as to how to go about navigating the report and, you know, shed some light. You learned some new things, but I did want to close with a couple of homework assignments, right? One is when you go and access your account, I encourage you to make sure you take a look at your branding. I go in and out of accounts all the time, and it's interesting to me how few take advantage of this customization. Okay, so again, on reports, click on customize reports, okay? Now, the next thing is I want you to make sure that you go to help. I encourage you to not only download the explainer, print it out, highlight those 2 leading indicators of change, okay? Feel free to book time if you want to dive deeper, okay? And then lastly, I want you to go add yourself as a contact. Start receiving these in your inbox and start thinking about getting these in front of your clients if you haven't done so already. So click on contacts, add a contact, right? Your first name, last name, email address, and then make sure that you put a report. So 95032, select it, make sure you're assigned a campaign, and then hit save. Okay, start receiving those reports. All right. Well, again, I really appreciate your time today. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have ideas of what you'd like to focus on in future Lunch and Learns, please let me know. We did record the session, so we'll go ahead and send out the link to all those who've attended, and I look forward to having you in future sessions. We'll go ahead and stay on the line a little bit. If you've got Q&A, just make sure to drop it into the QA field. If you've got to take off, thanks for joining.